Nice to see you. What's up, y'all? It's amazing to see you. Welcome to the live. What's up? Another Deborah, Cheryl, Apple user. So tonight we're talking about healing, identity, and deliverance. And why this is so important. Um, as you guys know, my purpose in life is to help pull people's destiny out of them, like point blank in the period. And really because one, I am and have been and will always be someone that's going to require the exact same thing. And really, the big thing is that we got to get. I can't wait to hit my goals so I can breathe. What you mean so you can breathe? What's your goal, friend? You might need to be here on Saturday. I haven't even talked about it yet, but we might need to be here on Saturday. But yeah, private party. Tell me what your goal is, right? So, the police academy. Oh, that's dope. That's super dope. And a big reason why I do this is because we got to get back to acting as a community again. Meaning, society will tell you that it's every man for himself and everyone's doing their own thing and you got to figure it out on your own. But let's be real. Who's actually figuring things out on their own? When it's over, I can breathe. Well, you're going to have to breathe while it's happening too. You just got to do right. But I get what you mean though. When you have that big goal and it just feels like they're pulling you and you're doing all this exercise and everything else, but when it's over, it's over. And I wonder if it's anything like the Navy SEALs training where they say the most difficult part is when they're sitting on the beach and no one's doing anything. What's up, Phelan? Good evening. Boom, boom, boom. So, yeah, tonight we're talking about healing, identity, and deliverance and how this is connected to your destiny. We always think of healing as something to make us feel better, but the truth is, if you don't heal, you're not gonna succeed where you want to. You just won't. Thank you so much for liking the live private party. Y'all go ahead and like up the live, share it with some people. It's going to be beautiful tonight. And I have some time tonight. My husband's at a gig that he has playing. So it's gonna be really great. So I don't feel like I'm rushed or anything. Not that he rushes me, but I'm trying to be a good wife, and not be all over the place. So yeah, thank you so much for liking and sharing. So tonight we're talking about healing, identity, deliverance, how all of those things are connected. And if you've never been on my live before, my name is Yannick Mador. I've been an executive coach for about 12 years now. And then recently, well, to be honest, it's always been like a gift of mine, but recently also a minister. I graduated from the Kingdom School of Ministry, last year, around this time, no, maybe a little bit later, but almost a year ago, and have been teaching Bible study. I am also the lead at the Bad Girls Gone Good for God Bible study, because that's what I am. I was praying. I was like, Lord, what's the name of this thing going to be? Who are going to be the people that you attract? And just like everything else, whether it's life, business, whatever, you're always attracting people just like yourself. Whatever you are, that's probably what your customers like. Because whatever it was that made you do that, thank you, thank you, thank you. I thought I had told you that, boom. That was last year. What's funny was I thought that I got like bamboozled into going into that because one of my favorite ministers, Dr. Cindy Trim, was like, yeah, I'm going to show you guys the trick to everything, all of my. So I'm thinking I'm getting some insider tools, honey. She put us through whole Bible school. She's like, yeah, my key to life is Jesus and understanding this thing called the kingdom of God and understanding this thing called prophecy in church and how to live from the Lord. Now, now that I look back at it, she was absolutely right. She was absolutely positively right. But at the time, I thought I was getting something completely different, like completely different. But I'm so glad I did it because, yeah, Dr. Cindy Trim is fire. And she's been like a spiritual mentor of mine from afar for quite some time. So I feel privileged that after all of these years of following her, I actually went to her ministerial school. And y'all, when I'm telling you, it's intense. Let me know if y'all can hear. Okay, good. So when I'm telling you it was intense, y'all, it was something completely different. Can y'all hear me? Because sometimes I think this mic is working. People be like, I can't hear nothing. So yeah, tonight we're talking about identity, healing, and deliverance. And so all of those things are connected, and all of those things are going to determine is low. Okay, I was louder without the mic. Okay, let me turn it up. Turn it up. What about now? Is it still low? No sound at all? I must have did something to this mic, y'all. I need to figure out what I did with this mic because it wasn't acting up like this before. Um, so yeah, it was something that was really big whenever I first started and following her. And so anyway, healing, deliverance, identity. Three big things. This is the thing about identity, deliverance, and healing. We always assume that it's going to be what's needed to just make us feel better, right? But what it really is that those three things, right? Your identity, whatever soul wounds you have, and whether or not you've been through some sort of deliverance, meaning, you know, they took you out the hood, but did they take the hood out of you, is going to determine how far you get in life. Before you pulled it, the mic was working. Dang it! I forget that TikTok is a little slower. So it's going to determine whether or not you get ahead in life. And it's funny. Every time I've been in a place to where I needed to go to a new level. What I didn't even realize was happening was I had to go through another level of healing. I had to renew my mind. I had to do some work on my identity, which is basically how I define myself, right? And I had to go through a new level of deliverance. And it's sneaky. It's sneaky because people never, ever, ever assume that that's the reason why they're being held back. They never do. It's the sneaky thing. You think you're not going to the next level because you don't have enough resources. You think you're not going to the next level because, somebody don't like you. You think what's holding you back is the economy. You think it's the relationships. I'm not in the right circle. I'm not in the right network. You think it's because of all of these other reasons, right? And y'all comment some of the reasons why people think that they're being held back. And really what it comes down to is your identity, your level of healing, meaning how much have you healed from your past? How much have you healed from your failures? And whether or not you've really been delivered, right? Which is the spiritual side. All of it's spiritual, but that's specifically the spiritual sides of things. And I've been coaching executives now and leaders too, and budding leaders for between 12 and 15 years. Okay. And every time someone either gets recommended to me or whether I start working with someone, they always think it's something else. Hey, I need to figure out a system. Hey, I need to figure out how to get better with recruiting. I need to get better with learning or with hiring. I don't know what this thing is doing. Here we go. Y'all gonna laugh. Friend, yes, I had muted my mic. So here I am thinking this somewhat expensive mic was broken, and literally I pressed the mute button. Thank you so much, Millionaire Diedrich. I appreciate that. I'm having a senior moment as a non-senior. So anyway, whenever people, right, we gonna receive, there we go. So whenever it is that people have come to me, they always think it's something else. Now, my thing is, whatever you tell me it is, at first I'm going to believe you. Like if you say, look, we need to figure out how to get some more resources, I'm be like, okay, cool, let's get with it. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to do my research. Thank y'all so much for liking it. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to ask you to pull your financials. I'm going to try to get the history of the business. I'm going to try to find patterns, your product sales, your this, your that, whatever. But lo and behold, 95% of the time, because 5% of people, that's the actual problem, like the biggest problem. 95% of the time, I figure and I find out that it's actually they're having an identity crisis, right? Or identity issue, or they're having issues with their self-image. And your identity is basically how you define yourself. Now, most people have not even taken the time to say, how do I define myself? But how you define yourself is always, always like being broadcast super duper loud. It's always dumb loud. Always, always, always very, very, very loud. Like I posted the video earlier about that lady screaming at the kindergartners or elementary school award ceremony, right? That was an example of how her personal identity was screaming loud. Because when you listen to it, and I've heard things like this before, you think it's really about the child, but really it's about her playing her own insecurities through her child. like like you can always tell, like for instance, how many of y'all, and look, I'll say this, how many of y'all have overspent on your child because you're like, I remember getting made fun of when I was a kid because I didn't have, the certain type of shoes or this or that, so it's like nobody's going to talk about my child and how they dress, and then next thing you know, you overdo it. Now we have kids that expect to have $5,000 prom dresses, and it's like, you are not getting married. Some of y'all may not even graduate. What in the world is going on? And typically it comes from maybe an insecurity that's within that person and their own identity that they're displaying on so many other levels, right? Whether it be just through straight up narcissism. Narcissism is nothing but an extreme level of insecurity. Something within that person's identity says, I'm not enough, so I need to be enough. I need to create scenarios that always make me feel as though I'm not enough. But the true identity of that person is that there is not enough. It's just not enough, whatever it is, right? And so they spend, and this is how I can always tell. So identity issues, not necessarily through what you say, it's through your behaviors and your decision making. And it's the same thing for me too, right? That's how I've had to go through and kind of get some help and have someone work with me on some of these identity issues, because through various ways, my behavior demonstrated where there were just tears and there was weeds in my identity. And nothing changed until I pulled those things up, because however you define yourself will also be an indicator of how you're going to behave. Right? Like let's say your identity is like, look, I'm always the fly person. If being well dressed is a part of your identity, and if you're like, look, I'm the fly girl, I'm the fly dude, da 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 da, I'm always on point, whatever, you're most likely going to choose dressing well over eating well. You might choose dressing well over anything because that's become such an ingrained part of your identity. That's why it's important to try different things and to do different things all the time, because you don't want one thing, unless it's just like being one with Jesus, you don't want one thing to be a complete part of your identity, because your identity should always be consistent with one, your identity in Christ, and two, it needs to be consistent with what you are here to do, what it is that you're trying to achieve. And anything that's below that is always going to get in the way. Like, I remember hearing about a specific rapper who got killed, right? And I'm like, you're a millionaire. Why are you still identifying as a street dude who goes to like side parties to shoot dice at skating rinks? Like, really, really sad that happened, and it was crazy. But that's like a clear example of an identity issue, to where because that part is so deep into your identity, you make decisions that are far, far below your true potential and your true place in life. And so if you want to choose, right, if you want to change where you are in life or the circumstances that happen in your life, you change your identity first. And then you're going to see that the way that you react to things, the actions that you take, the decisions that you make are going to be in alignment with what it is you're trying to achieve. Because like all of us, like exactly where we are, good, better, and different, wherever you are is just a product of a string of decisions you've made. decisions to go ahead and do something, decisions to not go for it, decisions to restart again, the decision to quit, the decision to act out, the decision to keep your mouth closed, the decision to speak, the decision to not speak. Every single one of us are in a place that's based on the decisions that we're looking to make. And so whenever, like, if you're really looking, because everything about what I do is about pulling people's destiny out of them, like whatever it is that God really commissioned for you, right? Whatever it is that he wants out of you, whatever your purpose is, whatever it is that's driving you, whatever life you have in your mind that you really want to be real life, my job is to pull that out of people. And it's been a gift of mine. Part of that is a prophetic gift, where when I meet someone, I can see where God is trying to take them. And this is what's crazy is, if you can see where God is trying to take you, you automatically know the attacks in that person's life, because it's going to be in the exact opposite position. So, like, for instance, a big thing for me is like, just being able to see, having strong discernment, having a prophetic gift. A battle that I've always had in my life is doubt. Isn't that crazy? So, like, I literally have a gift to where I can see, have strong discernment, right? Have a strong prophetic gift, can hear the voice of God. And of course, my battle through life has consistently been, up until recently, doubt. Like, did I really hear that? Is that really, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this, maybe that, right? So it's always going to be something that is in direct opposition to who you're really called to be, and what it is that you're trying to do. And so I wrote down, because I'm having a workshop this Saturday, right? And it's called Restoring and Healing Your Identity and Your Self-Image. So your identity is how you identify yourself, and your self-image is what you believe about what you're able to accomplish. And I mean, like, what you actually believe about what you're able to accomplish, not just what we all say, like, I can do anything. Now, the cool thing is, if you say that to yourself over and over and over and over and over and over again, then eventually you will believe it, because the subconscious has zero filter. So whatever you say to yourself, thank you guys so much for liking it. Whatever you say to yourself over and over and over again, eventually that's what you're going to believe. Period. Point blank, and the period. No more, no less, no whatever, right? That's what you're going to believe. So it's really, really important to make sure that whatever you're saying to yourself is consistent with what it is you're looking to achieve. So here's the key. If you're like, hey, I'm going to I want to run this $1 million business, right? Or I'm going to be the next president, or I'm going to be the world's most blah, 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 blah. Hey, D, whatever that is, right? If you say anything that's in opposition to that, your subconscious and that driving force within you, the thing that controls your motivation, all of that is going to be like, oh, well, then we're not doing that. The other side to it is, if you wake up every day and you say, I'm Batman, I am Batman, I'm Batman. Do you know your subconscious will eventually have you searching for black Lamborghinis? You'll start dressing in all black. Suddenly you don't like any color. Now your whole Amazon cart is filled with things to trick out your basement. Now you got black paneling and paint and everything else in your basement, and you're looking for high-tech computers and all this other stuff, to where slowly but surely you're finding a way to become Batman, right? And it's been proven not only in science, right? I know y'all laughing, but it's true. We've seen people like this, right? And we call them delusional, but really what it is they spoke it up so much to where their brain, their spirit, and their soul are all in alignment, right? And we find this in the Word of God. God even told us this: to decree a thing, and it shall be established. This is a spiritual truth. And so one thing that I'm learning is science is catching up with God. God ain't catching up with science. And every year that passes by, they keep finding new and new ways to prove what has always been known as a spiritual truth. Right. Whatever it is. If you say it over and over again, you'll believe it. Now, some of it can make you delusional, right? Like if I were to walk around saying I'm Batman, they're like, y'all need to lock her up. She said that far too many times, right? But there are certain things that you have to be delusional about because some of y'all have dreams that surpass the odds so much that people will call you crazy. And it doesn't even have to surpass the odds. Maybe it just surpass the odds from where you're from. Maybe it's just well, don't try to identify as wealthy. Identify as wealthy. You know, and D, I know you're a believer. One of the things that I decree over my life all the time is that my God is limitless and I'm one with the Father and I'm one with Jesus. You can find that in the New Testament, right? And he is limited, so therefore I am limited. Limitless. And I just continue to decree, right? The Wrights brothers. I just continue to decree that over my life. And so you don't have to try to identify as wealthy. Only thing you have to do is to decree it so often that your brain stops identifying with anything other than wealthy. And then you make decisions and you stick with the process. Yes, you decree and declare. Decree a thing and so it shall be established. Because really all you need is for your mindset to be in agreement with the possibilities that are there. That's why we're talking about identity. And this is how you know your identity needs to be restored. And I went through this list. I wrote it earlier because a big thing of mine is documenting my processes. Because as I'm looking for assistants and other people to teach some of these things too, so I can take on more clients and have more things, I got to really document things. And it's hard for someone with a prophetic gift to document everything that they're doing and put it into some sort of form or system. But I did do this early portion because this is normally what I find when I start working with someone, whether it be in business or in ministry. And here are some signs that I find that someone is having an identity issue. The first thing is that they start to lose faith and motivation early in the process. Now, remember, early in the process is a little different. We may think early in the process like a few days, right? But let's say you're in med school. Early in the process could be 2 years, right? Early in the process could be your first year of med school. Why? Because late in the process is year 6, 7, and 8, right? So you can do something for that period of time and that's still considered to be early in the process. And you start wondering like, can I do this or whatever? And I think part of it, and this is becoming a bigger issue because we live in like the popcorn age, so where everything that we want is at hand. What's up, Jumbo? Everything that we want is at hand. Now, spiritually, I do decree this over my life, D. I say the kingdom of God is at hand, meaning whatever it is that I want is right here. And let me tell you, since I've been decreeing that thing, it's been coming, right? And I wait with expectation. And at hand could be, yeah, I may say it today. It may not come today at 2 p.m. or in the next 5 minutes. But when I'm telling you, it comes at hand right when I need it. What? The kingdom of God is at hand, meaning it's right here. So the first thing is they lose faith early in the process, right? They have difficulty handling challenges. Every challenge demotivates them, right? Because when you already feel small, instead of seeing a challenge as just something that happens, it becomes more proof as to why you're not good enough. Does that make sense? So that's a sign that you need some help healing your identity. Number 3 is you're unable to recognize how close you are to the goal. Now, this is something that's like kind of right there. And I do recognize that as a coach or in ministry or anyone that's gone ahead of you, it's my job to help people see how close they are to the goal. But oftentimes, most people don't recognize how close they are to the goal. So it's one of those things. But if you're sitting there and you look at it, and if you take a step back, and if every time someone sees you and they're like, but what you talking about? It's right there. You're like, I'm giving up on men. It's just like, friend, you You had 10 people ask you for a date yesterday. That's an identity issue. Maybe you don't see yourself as being good enough for a relationship or for a marriage or something like that, and you're starting to repel all of your prospects, right? And I see that all the time. There are so many single people who swear they want to not be single people, but also don't want to act like they single people because they truly just somebody told them they were going to be alone forever. They've been watching these little Instagram and TikTok podcasts for too long, and someone was like, "That's why you're going to be alone with a cat." And I'm like, "Well, who's with you right now?" And it better not be somebody you paid. But I digress. Um, this is the fourth sign that I look for is this person is hyper focused on criticism and judgment. If you do everything with like this filter of not wanting to be criticized, not wanting to be judged, not want people in your business, not knowing this, not doing that, you may have an identity issue. And it probably came from maybe a very judgmental or critical parents, or maybe you had, people around you that were calling you whatever, this, that, and the third. And then the last one is afraid of doing things differently. Like you won't do anything different. You won't show yourself. You always want to be behind the scenes. Typically, someone has an identity issue. And then lastly is playing it small. When you have all the coins in your hands, you have all the potential right in your hands, but you always play it small. Like no matter what, if you can have a $1,000,000 idea, but you'll always see it as a mom and pop, and you'll treat it like a mom and pop. That's like one huge sign that you have some issues and that you need to. She said guilty. Well, then you need to be on. You need to be on Saturday. So this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I don't care if it's me and you. I'm going to have a session on how to heal your identity issues and your self-image. And everyone go in there. You can go to the link in my bio, get the ticket. You'll have the workbook, your everything. I'm going to walk you guys through how to just go through this process, what to declare over your life, how to figure these things out. What's up, Jacqueline? What's up, Private Party? So how to go through all of this, and thank you for liking it. So you have to go through this process of restoring because that part of you isn't going to restore itself. I've seen people walk into the right opportunities, the right networks with the right people, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you get a ticket. It's not going to be on TikTok. This is a session, a workshop. So it's go to my profile link in bio, and it says healing your identity and self-image, and go to there. So I've seen people have their dream in front of them, and they're like, if I just get in front of the right people and the right team and the right situation and the right opportunity, whatever, get into the situation and blow it. Because maybe a big part of their identity has been, everyone always treats me like I'm the little dog, right? Or maybe they feel insecure and small. So when they get in the room, they either do one or two things. They either ball up or they overcompensate. So then you see people being overly aggressive. So they're overly aggressive. They're overdoing it. They don't know how to chill. They take everything personally. They're always offended. They always feel attacked. They always feel like somebody's trying to pull one on them. All these things. I've seen it happen, right? Especially if you're a creative person, that tends to happen a lot more too, because what did Erykah Badu say? I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my ish. So especially if you're creative, you have to do a lot of work to heal this portion of your identity, because look, that sensitivity can get in the way at times, especially when it comes to dealing with people. And so literally, if your self-image and what you believe about yourself, or how you see yourself, because sometimes people say like things like, oh, well, like I've had people before say, and this is not just one person, a lot of different people will be like, well, whenever someone, because I look different, or, because I am of a different, whatever, right? People feel like they judge me. I don't get opportunities. I don't do this. I don't do that. And literally, it could be maybe they had one or two experiences like that. I don't care if you have 10. Even if you had 10 experiences like that, but you've met 100 different people, that's still not the norm. And so now, because that's become a part of your identity, because discrimination can be a part of your identity too. You can walk in a room. I can walk in a room and be like, everybody here racist and don't like black people. And then I hold back because I'll walk in the room like that, right? I'm not going to get a lot of opportunities. Let me tell y'all, what percentage of my clients do you guys think have been black over the years? I'll tell you, maybe 5. So do you know how terrible or how terribly broke I would have been over the years if every time I walked into a room and I didn't see people like myself, I assumed I wasn't going to make any money? It would have been a self-fulfilling prophecy. That can become a part of your identity. And so the thing about this is that it's something sneaky that you'll never really it's like you'll never really know it until someone gives you a reason to point it out. Now, here's the thing. However you define yourself, you act accordingly to that. Like, have y'all ever seen a kid who's like identifies as like a jock or something like that, and suddenly they don't start doing well in school? Like, I'm a football player, and suddenly they just start failing because, as far as athletes are defined, they're not supposed to be like the strongest scholars. And you're looking at this person like, but hold on, you got sense. So are you like failing on purpose? You're like intentionally being lazy about your studies because that's not how people are identified? That makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So these are the different ways in which your identity can impact what it is that you're trying to achieve. Or if you go into a place and maybe you identify as like, look, I am the nerd. And when it's time for you to go into a place and you're sitting there looking like, well, I'm introvert, I'm the nerd. And people are like, no, I actually think you're kind of cool. You're like, but no, I'm not. I'm a nerd. It's like, it's really strange, right? Or some people have identified as the underdog. What's up, Lamont? Some people have allowed being an underdog to be a part of their identity. But what happens when you go into a scenario where you're not the underdog anymore? You're actually the top dog. What's up, Kashmir? So you actually go in and you're the top person. But over time, you've embraced this identity of being the underdog. So instead of going into something where it was supposed to be a TKO, like you were supposed to TKO that interview, you were supposed to TKO that test, you were supposed to TKO the listening party. And I use music a lot. My husband's a musician and a producer and all that stuff. So I'm around musicians and I'm in record companies and all that stuff all the time, right? So and I've actually coached people within that industry, so I know how that goes. And so you go in there and you're sitting there acting like the underdog, but you're actually supposed to be a TKO. Like it was supposed to have been a done deal, but you go in there instead of just going ahead and getting the deal done, you go in there ready to swing. And people are like, well, hold on. Well, now that you bring this up, maybe we should take another glance. Maybe we should think about this a little bit more. Have any of y'all ever seen something like that happen? Where you messed around and gave the person the exact thing that they used to whoop you up with and to decline it? So that's the reason why you have to do the work to heal your identity. Sometimes, like a big thing, a part of my identity that I had to change was I had to keep telling myself over and over, like, I'm organized. I didn't realize that disorganization had become a part of my identity because I was around people that were just straight up OCD. And any of y'all been around somebody that's so clean that they make you feel dirty, and it's not until you leave that you realize, like, hold on, I'm real clean. When you see regular people, and not realizing that I had gone through, right, I had gone through a period of time where I was disorganized. But let me tell you, disorganization comes from a place to where your mind and everything is not at rest. And let me tell you, you can tell, especially for us women, where we are mentally and emotionally based upon how we keep our quarters. How do you keep the space in which you're going to dwell in? Because somebody who thinks they're a queen, they're like, hold on, queens don't live like this with stuff like this everywhere. Right? And sometimes the disorganization that we see is just a result of where we are mentally and emotionally. But you can sit there and call yourself disorganized, and that can become a part of your identity. And next thing you know, you're constantly operating your life as though you're a disorganized person. So that's the identity portion. And so I really take inventory, because what I find is that people usually embrace identities that go against what they're actually trying to achieve. So they embrace identities that are literally the antithesis of what it is they're looking to do in life. Like, I say what I want to say, but what you want to achieve requires for you to have self-control. Friend, what you gonna do with that? What happens when you identify someone that's unhinged, right? Or that you just have the freedom to do whatever. I don't have to consider anybody. But what it is that you are trying to do requires heightened levels of self-control. Then what? Do you just give up and settle? Or do you really question, okay, where did I get this identity? Who told me that being unhinged was something good? That's not a fruit of the spirit. God said it was self-control was a big part of that. So who told me that I had no self-control? Who told me I was unhinged? How many of y'all have heard people call themselves bipolar with no diagnosis? You know, I could be bipolar. Oh, okay. So that's been a part of your identity. Well, why do you think your life results are bipolar or inconsistent? Why do you think you've had, I know, right? Why do you think you've had a hard time building? Because you've been consistently identifying as someone who's bipolar. And not only is that, like, it's terrible because it actually takes away from people that actually have that as a diagnosis. But really, you're just identifying with something that promotes you being inconsistent and unsettled. Right. That's the perfect word. Inconsistent and unsettled. So you can't consistently build towards things because that has become a part of your identity. And so you give yourself an excuse for a lack of consistency because you've allowed that to come into your nest. So do you guys see how this is like the beginning phases of the work that people have to do in order to achieve their goals? So they're thinking, hey, I'm having a hard time getting new business. Hey, I'm having a hard time finding the right people. I'm having a hard time finding funding, when really you're inconsistent because you've allowed that to become a part of your identity. Right? I've heard people say, oh, I'm not a people person. Yes, you are. You do like people. You just don't like people who trigger you. So you're human. Now, that doesn't mean that you are rambunctious and things like that, but there are people who like people, but are also more quiet and laid back and more introverted. But it doesn't mean that they don't like people. It just means that you interact with people differently than someone who's extroverted. But it doesn't mean you're not a people person. So what happens when you've told yourself you're not a people person, but it's time for you to go out and network? So you have these goals that's going to require for you to go and get funding, for you to go and find your business partner, for you to do all these things, but you told yourself you're not a people person. So you don't go do it because you're like, oh, I'm not a people person. It's not going to work out. I remember being in sales, and that's my background. My background's been sales for a long time. And I remember people telling me, well, I don't know if I'd be great in sales because I'm not extroverted. Hold on one second, guys. I just realized something. My other camera was doing something weird. And so they're like, oh, well, I wouldn't be a people person. I wouldn't be great in sales because I'm not a people person. And I'm like, do you know you would actually be the best in sales? Because people who are not extroverted, where they're like, hey, how you doing? People actually trust them. So when you go in and you're just talking and you're being quiet and you're not, trying to do the most, people are going to just listen to you, and they have to lean in closer to hear what you're saying because you're not yelling across the room. And so you actually end up selling 2 to 3 times more than everyone else because you're different than what most salespeople are like. What's up, Stanley? So this is why you have to really go through and take inventory of your identity and heal the places of your identity. Because I found that most people identify themselves by their past results. So just because you failed at it one time doesn't mean you're not that. Like, how many of you guys have heard a kid say, I'm bad at math? You're not bad at math. You just haven't had enough practice. You just got behind. But then suddenly they get a tutor, they get some work or whatever, and suddenly they're great at math. So most people identify themselves by their past experiences. And then the other side is most people identify themselves based upon the criticism of others. But how many of you guys know that no one else's opinion matters except for God's and your own? A lot of people they're just wrong. They're just flat out wrong. And most people aren't going to look behind and peel back, the covers enough to really see who you are. Because you have to really study someone for a long time before you really truly understand them. Ask anyone who's married. As soon as you think you know somebody, and you can see them every living moment of however many days, and there's still something that you got wrong. There's still more to discover. Right, especially if it's someone that they trust. So you can be around someone all the time and still have things that you misidentified them about or misidentified about them. So you have to do that. Now the second part is healing your self-image. And that once you heal your identity, then it opens up your self-image. And your self-image is basically how you feel about what you can accomplish. So someone with a low self-image, they don't really see themselves having the ability to accomplish much. Someone with a high self-image, you're like, hey, y'all, we're going to go climb Mount Everest next year. And they're like, no, I can train. I'll be ready by this weekend. Y'all meet people like that? Where their self-image is so high that it's like leaning on the levels of delusion. And I'm just like, okay, look, I love the fact that you're doing that. And yes, you can, but also no, you're not, because we need your lungs and stuff to be ready for that. I know your mind is ready, but we need to make sure those lungs can take, the thin air that's up there. So they got to be strong. So if you have a low self-image, then typically what ends up happening is that you don't take risk. And that there'll be that thing that you want to do so bad, the places that you want to go, there'll be changes you want to make, there'll be people that you want, and basically like just different dreams that you have that, hey hun, that you'll let go of, and you'll kind of let go by the wayside because you don't see yourself as being able to do it. Because you're only going to do the things that you can see yourself doing. And people who have like a low self-image, they'll just sit there and they'll just like, I don't know if I'll be good at that. But really, they don't see themselves being great at whatever is considered to be great. Like, and sometimes we'll put someone in a box where we think that they're just extra special. But really the thing that's extra special about them is that they have a strong self-image. That's it. I'm special. You are special in so many ways. You're a talented musician, a great husband, And you're also special. And you're special to me. Right. So, and really the thing that stands out about that, actually, my husband really is special. My husband moved to Atlanta to become a music producer. And I didn't find out until like years later we were talking about this. And he moved to Atlanta to become a music producer and had no idea how to even work the equipment. He just had a dream in his keyboard. So literally, like, who was it that taught you how to use the equipment to record? You're not listening anymore? Anyway, so some producer, I know, Big Faith, taught him, like, literally, they're in a session, and while in the session, taught him how to use it. And later on, he ended up being a producer with Jagged Edge and records with Usher and Mary J. Blige and all this stuff later. But he literally left college, left home, moved down south to become a music producer, and had nothing. Strong self-image will get you a lot further in life than anything else. Just believing that you can do it. When you just have that, like, oh, I'll figure it out. Like, that attitude will make you apply for jobs that you have no qualifications for. But you just believe, like, I'll figure it out and I'll do a good job. So much in life, like, if you want to attract some sort of miracle, if you want to attract a great network, if you just need that lob, right, to push you forward, those two things are the things that you have to improve first. Now, I actually wrote out my process. So once I get to the portion to where, one, we figure out what parts of their identity needs to be healed, which we're going to do on Sunday. And understanding, what parts about your self-image need to be healed and where it kind of got off. Because once you recognize where it got off, then you can tell yourself the truth about it. Because sometimes it's like, you ever play that game, tell one truth, a truth and a lie? And what I find is that people have a hard time identifying the truth until they can reconcile the lie. Like, you have to understand, hey, Yvette, hi, Winston, you have to kind of get why what you've been saying to yourself makes no sense. And the reason being is that, most people, like you said, Dee, don't really have like the faith and the strong confidence, because we wouldn't be having the conversation, if that person already had like an amazing identity and amazing self-image. They're just out here just doing stuff and figuring it out, right? It's on Saturday, and thank you. I can't wait to see you. It's on Saturday at 10 a.m. from 10 to 12. Anyone who wants to join this session about healing your identity and self-image on Saturday, go ahead and get your ticket. Go to the link in my bio. It says Healing and Self-Identity. It's a 2-hour workshop where we're going to go through this process together. But because most of us get stuck in our heads, you have to really... you have to be able to identify what got off in the first place. Because when you can identify what got off in the first place, then you'll also be able to say, oh, that is a lie. And this got here because so-and-so said this, or I had one failure and suddenly, and I just felt so bad about it, or da-da-da-da, or someone told me this, or I took some bad advice, and that's when I stopped believing in myself. Or that's when I started identifying as boom, 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 boom. Or I hear people say, because one big thing that I've been talking to people about is just this big exchange that's going to happen. And we're already seeing it. Any of y'all who've been getting on my lives for months now, I've been saying this since 2023, that this was the year. I said, this starts the season of the great exchange, and that there were going to be a lot of people who thought they were untouchable, or we thought they were untouchable, that were in high places that are going to fall. I've been saying it. And it's not to bring, to highlight people falling, because, it's God's intention that none shall perish. But it's part of my call and my assignment is to prepare people to take hold of what's next. So you can learn and have your mind and spirit prepared and your soul prepared to truly be the head and not the tail. Because there's going to be an exchange in wealth, an exchange in power. There's going to be some people fall that you thought would never fall before. There's going to be a lot of exposure. I do know that God is really working on some people's hearts and taking some of that fear out of their hearts, to where you're going to start seeing people speak up that were previously very, very afraid to speak up. And we saw it with Cassie. Now it's this videotape. Now it's going to be all over. It's not going to just be an entertainment. It's going to be all over. And we're going to continue to see it. But as these people come down, there has to be people who are willing to take over. Now, when there's an exchange of power, that means that the people who were once the tail have to be prepared to be the head. But it starts up here, because someone can give you the position, but if you haven't been delivered, meaning your mind is still in Egypt, you'll get there and you will ball up. You will be like a thin reed just flapping. And so we're doing the work now to prepare you to go into your next. But I hear so many people say all the time, oh, well, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a business owner. And they say it like that's a part of their identity, non-business owner. If you go to work, you're doing business. You're just operating a portion of that business within a bigger business. You got your own little mini franchise in your department. And let that franchise start failing. Won't that whole business start going down? So you're already doing it. It's just that you keep saying that over and over again. But let me tell you, what if God has this amazing business for you, this amazing opportunity that's going to be the answer to all of your prayers? Some of us walk away because our identity has already said no. Because you've defined yourself in some way that was the opposite of what God created you to be. That's the opposite of what's going to be your provision. Now, here's the thing, because I was talking to you guys about decreeing, right? Decree a thing and so it shall be established, and it shall be established. When you start decreeing things, you also have to be open to however it comes. So if you decree divine provision, you can't be like, Lord, I want you to send me divine provision. I want all this money, but it can't be this. Now you've limited God. Now something that was right here can't come to you anymore. Now you got to wait until the next season and you got to wait to where maybe it not being that thing it's 2 seasons from now. The thing that was in season you rejected, so now you got to wait for the next season. So now you go through years of nothing, because you're something in your identity was there that shouldn't have been there in the first place. So you got to be open to how these things come and be willing to do that. You can't be closed-minded. You can't be afraid. You can't be any of those things. You got to be ready and willing. So really, and from now until Saturday, I really want y'all to take inventory of the things that have become a part of your identity that truly haven't served you. That truly haven't served you. Like, I'll give y'all an example. Say somebody was talking about the R. Kelly, right? Did it serve him to call himself the Pied Piper? How long had he been calling himself that? Serving all kind of time. Private party said right. It did not serve him. Now, from the famous question of what came first, the chicken or the egg, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, he should have been calling himself grown men like grown women. I don't know what you call it. Fred and Wilma. Something just that's consistent with that. Because sometimes we'll even say something as a joke, not realizing, hey, your subconscious has no filter. Even what you say in jest, it takes in. I don't want to grow up. I know I've been, just whatever that thing is, it'll become a part of your identity, and it'll actually fight against the thing that you want to achieve. So start decreeing what it is you want to see and not how things have been. Because we got to become, look, we're supposed to be, look, shrewd as a snake, innocent as a dove. Well, guess one thing that snakes do? They shed its skin every year, if not more than once a year. They're constantly looking for what's new. They don't walk around with that same old dry skin. And some of our identities have become that old crusty, scaly skin. And you need to go and let somebody take a dry brush and get off of you so you can do something new. Literally, right? You got to be willing to get new wineskins. Yes, through the heart, the mouth speaks. Yes, whatever's in your heart is coming out. But what you do to kind of undo that, right, is you got to get some new words in you. You got to start decreeing some new things over and over yourself and rewire, right, both spiritually and physically. Rewire your mind. You got to renew your mind with new information, with new data. Come here, big boy. Okay, that's his scary bark. So no one's here. So he has multiple barks. He has my small dogs get on his nerve bark. Then he has I hear something and I want to let you know, don't you come close to here bark. And then he has I'm about to get him bark. That means somebody here. That's not the somebody here bark. That bark don't get me out of bed. The other bark will get me out of bed. Like, hold on, what's going on? We're gonna fight. So anyway, you gotta start decreeing some new things. And I'll give you some examples of like I've had clients of mine say, well, I can be lazy. Why would you decree that you're lazy? And you want to run $1 million business. Why would you say that about yourself? Right? Why would you say that about yourself? And so I was writing out some of like the workbooks and the curriculum for this Saturday, but I want to bring up one thing that's on there and ask you guys this question is when you think about what you want to accomplish, right? If you really want to think about the life that you want to have. The life you want to have, your dreams, whether it's your dream partner, whether it's your dream business, whether it's your dream life. Sometimes for some people, your dream is just how you feel day to day. You have a dream about how you want to feel every day, this, that, and the third. And then ask yourself, what part of that has been within reach? Meaning, what were the first steps? And whatever stops you from taking those first steps are normally an indicator of where you have an identity issue. So maybe it required money and you're like, I don't have the money for that. Okay, so maybe poverty is a part of your identity. Because when poverty is not a part of your identity, you're thinking, hey, the money's not here now, but I'm going to go get it. Give me 30 days. I'll figure something out. Right? Or maybe it's, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. People just don't want to spend money. That's another poverty thing. When people say people don't want to spend money, I'm like, people are always finding ways to spend money, y'all. Don't we go out and find ways to spend money? Buying things that we already have over and over again. We got food at home. We go to the restaurant 57 times. Or we go to the store. I tell women this all the time. I have a jewelry company called Air Expressions. That's why I always have just cool jewelry on. And I tell women, I'm like, look, one, life's too short for boring jewelry, but stop buying the same pair of earrings 12 times. Y'all bought them same hoops 500 times from 1992 until 2024. Get something different so it doesn't look like you're dressed the same every day, right? And then make an excuse as to why we don't need it. So that describes an identity issue. Why don't you think people would spend money with you? And then it gets into, oh, well, they only buy from people like them. Y'all, for every person that we think is them, there's someone just like you who are making it happen. I'm too old. There's people starting their businesses in their 50s and 60s and 70s who are killing it. Right? Martha Stewart didn't start her business until she was well into her 50s and divorced. right? Something, and it's a limited belief, and you can try to get rid of the belief, but until you fix the portion of the identity, then all it's going to do is continue to create new and like new revised, remixed versions of that belief. So you have to heal the identity, and you have to really heal your self-image, what you believe you can accomplish. Now, a big problem with our self-image is that we grew up in the United States and everything was like on some sort of like standardized test. But the issue is that none of us were made to standard. None of us. The only standard that we were created and made was God. We were made in his image and likeness. And he's limitless, and he's a spirit, and he has all these different characteristics that are amazing and unique, and then he made us specifically. But we go into these environments where everything is standardized, so you start, identifying with standard things and not recognizing that no, you can't compare yourself to that standard because you were built to standard for something else. Like a rose would never compare itself to a tulip. Most of the time, you won't even find them in the same garden. That's two different vibes. Or a lion, is not going to compare itself to a mountain lion. They were built for two different areas. One's way up in the mountains in China, and the other one's in the Serengeti. So these are the things that impact our self-image, to where maybe you believe and you don't have a strong belief in what you're able to accomplish, but maybe you've been in the wrong environments. And that being placed in the wrong environments, or environments that aren't suited for you, produce results that were consistent with the fact that you weren't suited for that environment. And now you believe that you can't achieve when really you were just in the wrong environment. So on Saturday, we're going to address a lot of these things and undo a lot of these things and make you question where you got these beliefs. Because how you see yourself, and what you believe you can achieve, is going to determine what it is you're going to go after. It's going to determine how you set your goals. It's going to affect your decision making. It's going to affect how you react to things, how you react to challenges, where you invest your time, how you waste time. It's going to impact how you make destiny altering decisions. So for instance, when you have a high calling, there's certain places, spaces that you can't be in because you're like, what I'm called to do is too important for me to risk myself by being here. It's just like the vice president and the president can't be on the same plane. Because if the plane goes down, their roles are too important to the nation to where they will not risk, even if it's a half of a 1% of a chance that that plane will go down. They will not risk both the president and the vice president being on the same flight at the same time because their roles are just too important. There are things about where you're supposed to be and who you are and your destiny that's too important for you to be in certain places and spaces. And if you really knew who you were, you wouldn't even come close to touching it. You're like, no, God is going to use me. I just cannot. Like if you really knew who you were, you'd make completely different decisions. But part of the problem is that, like I said, we've taken on identities based upon the opinions of others and their miscategorizations of us, and based on our past experiences. But just because you failed at something doesn't mean that that's not something I can do. Like none of y'all just like fell as Tyler's and you just said, I'm not walking. I'm not a walker. Legs work and everything else, but you still crawling around because you failed 3 times. No. You're just a part of the learning curve. So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about on Saturday that's really important. And look, invite people, make sure you're there. It's 2 hours, it's a workshop, and we're going to talk about it, how to heal it. So we're going to attack it in the natural and the spiritual. We're going to pray, we're going to go through deliverance. We're going to teach. We're going to do all of these different things to make sure that you guys get what you need. Because I'm telling y'all, some of y'all been listening since 2023. Did I not tell you that some of the things that are occurring right now were going to occur? I saw it. I 1000% saw it. But also, you have to prepare yourself to take hold of that thing. I remember I went into prayer one night and I said, God, tell me, what are my next steps? It just feels like nothing's happening. Da, 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 da. And a lot of times he'll speak to me in scripture where he'll just be like, go to this scripture. And that scripture was about renewing your mind. Basically, before I did anything, I had to renew my mind to make sure that when I got there, I was ready to take hold of it. And you're preparing yourself for your destiny, and life is just that preparation process to make sure you're ready to take hold of your destiny. And sometimes you may think your life is experiencing a delay when really you just haven't been preparing. And if you don't see yourself the same way that God sees you, then you're absolutely not going to prepare yourself. You're not. You're not going to prepare yourself. If in his mind you're going to be like this like world-renowned singer, and somebody in third grade told you can't sing, then you're going to start smoking Black and Miles. Something crazy. It'll be something absolutely crazy. And when and then the thing is that in every area of our life where we've settled, and I don't mean settle like learning how to be content, but when you really want that thing, but you gave yourself a reason to stop going after it, there's always an identity issue present. Always. We'll say it's the money. We'll say it's this. We'll give ourselves 1,000 reasons why. And all of those reasons, the reason they're scary is because they're all like legitimate. It's not like you're saying like, Barney came and got me and tied me up to the chair or something weird, right? Like not having the money, the resources. Those are the things that people always say. But there have been other circumstances where you didn't have everything, but you went for it anyway and got it. But why is it when it comes time to do the thing and live the life that you really want, you don't take that same issue? One of the things I do is I minister and I teach the Bible, and the Bad Girls Gone Good for God Bible study. And sometimes, every once in a while, I think back at times where I would leave my house at 3 a.m. Honey, if my friends, I didn't care if I had to be at work at 5 a.m. If someone called me and was like, it's going down, blah, 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 whatever, I will find a way. I would pack my little laptop, my work stuff. I get in the car, wake myself out my sleep, do my makeup real quick in the car. I would find a way to make some mess happen. I would find a way. Why don't we use that same energy when it comes to doing the thing that we really want? And it's because part of our identity has been under attack. Think about it. What are some of the things you have gone you just found a way to make happen? Won't we do it? We'll do it for some mess. Thank you so much, D. And Saturday, look, if you think this is something, you're in for a treat on Saturday, because I haven't even gotten into the how. Saturday's going to be crazy. Even as I was writing out some of this stuff, right, I had to stop, because even for me, I was like, hold on, let me go back in here. This is something. I said, Holy Spirit, hold on, wait, this one was for me too. I'm going to have to meditate on this for a while, to where it was distracting, because I kind of wanted to go through everything. And I was like, no, let me get all this stuff up, right? Yeah, that getting up after all-nighter. Yo, I can't tell you the amount of times that I'm like, oh, I'm too tired to do this. Or for me, it was like homework. I'm too tired to do my college courses. Let it have been a long night at the bar. I would leave the bar, drive that car right to work, and sleep in the parking lot. Shower, freshen up in the bathroom, brush my teeth, spray some stuff, still got the little club wristband on. You find a way. But when it comes to the things that we really hold dear and when we hesitate, that's when we know we have issues. And this is the thing. The reason we do this type of work is all of us have a choice, right? We can either do this in 11 days or in 44 years or in 40 years. And when you put in the work to really heal yourself, to prepare yourself, to get in the mindset, to be open to change, right? Because being open to change is really just being obedient. There's been plenty of times in my life where I know for sure God was asking me to change and I just wouldn't. I'd give a million excuses why. You see it in the book of Matthew where this guy was like, "What do I have to do to be with you?" And God was like, "All right, come with us. Take up your cross, come with us." And he was like, "Can I bury my dad first?" That was an excuse, y'all. The same way we're like, "Oh, my auntie just died. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it." It was just an excuse. When he told him, "Look, all right, come on, let's go." Oh, you meant now? Hold on, I gotta bury my dad. You knew that when you asked, right? So we just come up with all of these different excuses as to why we aren't doing it. And so the only thing that not excavating these things do and not taking the time to do it, all it does is just delay the journey. Something that should only take 11 days takes 40 years. I can look back at points in my life where I was like, I know the reason I didn't have growth during that time is because I absolutely positively refused to change. I was in an area of disobedience, right? And God was showing me in so many different ways, like, I need you to change. You got to change. You got to change. You got to do better. You got to change. You got to change. I just wouldn't. Why? And the reason I wouldn't is because a lot of the things that I was being asked to change were part of my identity. And what do we say? That's just not how I am. Or that ain't me. Okay. Well, you're also asking for something that ain't you, which is not being broke. But all this time, broke has been you. Being in debt has been you. Being lonely has been you. So we like the beneficial side to it, right? But when it comes, like, everyone wants to receive and experience without having to make a sacrifice of some sort. And the biggest sacrifice that you can make is obedience, right? Even God says obedience is better than sacrifice. And so when he's asking you to change something about yourself, that is a part of your identity, the worst thing that you can do is say no. Because as long as you're saying no, all you're doing is delaying. Because I'm telling you, what the Bible said, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So when he said something, he said what he said. And he got plenty of time. You don't. He gonna be the same yesterday, today, and always. He gonna be here forever. He got time to wait. The question is, do you have 40 years to wait? Do you have 60 years to wait? Do you have until the afterlife to wait? Right, do not. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm not trying to wait until I get to heaven to get everything. This is the opportunity where God can really spoil you. Because everything's already there in heaven, everybody got it. But this is the time where he can really spoil you. But you got to be in a place of obedience. So, and part of that is us taking the things in your identity that were just kind of sewn into your life that people have said, little boxes they put you in, little boxes they made you check that you didn't even realize that had just subliminal meanings to these boxes. Hey, what does it mean to be Black? What does it mean to be white? What does this mean to be a woman? What does it mean to do this? And so you start creating these boxes for yourself. And the next thing you know, you start living out these boxes. And then you wonder why, like, you're not ahead. And it's not until you're willing to question all of it, right? Uninvited opinions, question all the Bruno, leave her alone. Come here, Bruno. Come here. I already know that one. You did something wrong. Come on. Come here. Come here. You're not in trouble. Hey, it's too late to be doing all that. All right? It's too late and you're too loud. Okay? Be good. Fox. No. Yeah, you're doing too much. You're being real loud. We're not doing that. I'm about to go to bed too. So yeah, make sure that you start to tear out those things. Start to tear out those things. And this is the part that is just the scariest, is that like one question, this question I like to ask my clients that always identifies where they may have some issues in their identity and their self-image is, what seems to always be out of reach for you? What do you feel is out of reach for you? And you may have to think about it, but like, what's the thing you always say to yourself? You're like, oh, only those kind of people have that. And usually it shows you where you think you're not. Like, why aren't you those kind of people that live like that? Who told you that? So anyway, guys, I plan on being up early tomorrow, and it's my anniversary tomorrow. So I'm still gonna teach a little bit earlier in the day, but tomorrow we will not have the Bad Girls Gone Good Bible study because it's my anniversary. So I'm gonna be doing something with my husband tomorrow. Thank you, thank y'all, We celebrate love, people being together. It's still happening out here, but when I get off of here, everyone that's on here, especially if you've been listening, we've been talking more about some of the issues and things like that. But on Saturday, we're going to give some solutions, and I'm going to take you guys through the process of how to heal this portion of your life. Because I promise you, when you heal that identity, and you start getting that mind of Christ, and you start really Jesus, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's on the ticket too. And I'm going to send you the link by tomorrow morning. When you start getting that mind of Christ, because believe me, if you have any sort of limiting beliefs or anything, your identity that's limited, you don't have the mind of Christ. Because there wasn't anything that he couldn't do. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's just it. It's just it. So get your ticket. It starts at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's from 10 a.m. to 12. And go to my profile, click the link, and go to Healing Your Identity and Your Self-Image. And I'll send you guys the workbooks and all that stuff beforehand. But really, that's it, y'all. So thank y'all for listening. Journal whatever came to your mind tonight, journal it. Writing is cathartic, and that's part of the process of kind of taking those things out. That's that self-work. Because when you work on yourself, everything about your life is lived from the inside out. Whatever is in you is coming out in your behavior, how you speak, how you act, what you're drawn towards, your motivation, basically what's in you, right? And the state of what's in you, your mind, your will, your emotions, aka your soul, is really like the beginnings and it's projecting the life around you. So think of yourself and your life and your mindset and how you see yourself as the projector, and the life is really just the image that your life is just the image that's been projected. That's it. And the problem is we got some good slides in there and we got some bad slides in there. And what you want is for it to be all good. All good. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. When you think about your image, and we're going to go through this on Saturday in detail, Everything that God has destined for you, do you know that He has it destined knowing your limitations? Not if He becomes perfect, this will happen. No, knowing, look, this person's really great at this. They're not so great this. Like, like everyone has like inclinations. And on the one side of that inclination is something else. And so what you're going to do is embrace who you are and also know that the things that you want in life always reflect your true self anyway. How you want to live your life always reflects your true self. Where you want to live, the types of spaces that you like. Like I know I'm a little wild child. So my life reflects going to wild places and being in Indonesia and Cuba and, doing wild child stuff. It's okay. It's okay. Right? We're all fearfully and wonderfully made. So like I said, you guys go ahead, sign up. It's on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And y'all, we are going to prepare ourselves for our next. We're not going to just assume that our circumstances are going to get better and then, or worse off, they get better, but your hands are slippery. You ain't got hands. You can't make it. You don't want to get in the NFL and you got butterfingers because then you get embarrassed. You gotta prepare to prep them hands first because they're not throwing them. They're not throwing them in the NFL like they were throwing them in high school. You can't break all your fingers. You got to be able to do that. So, and this is the process. And y'all, one of the main reasons I do this is because I used to do this for CEOs, and I still do, but mostly for CEOs, people who are already established, they would do this type of work. But the people who really need it the most are those who are trying to build something, those who are looking to break curses in their family, those who are looking to be, the glory holder in their family, those who are ready to create new legacies. So, and when you're in that position to where you're trying to create new legacies, typically you didn't have someone already passing down the secrets to you. So I'm going to give you guys the same secrets I would share with them, to you all. And it's just a part of the process because somebody in their family learned it from somebody. Now, it may have been 10 generations ago, but at a certain point, there was a generation who didn't have it and went and got it. And so you got to be a part of the generation that just goes and gets it. And then that way, when you get it, not only can you get it, but you hold on to it for as long as you're supposed to. So thank you guys so much for listening. I will see y'all on Saturday. I'm so excited to see you, D, on Saturday. And y'all, I don't care if it's, well, it's not going to be because there's some other people that signed up, but I don't care if it's the three of us on there. Because the Lord is the one who goes after the one. So even if it's us three on there, we're still going to flip the script on this world. So thank y'all so much. I'll see you later.